Well, time for another episode of Survival Stuff with Indiana Jim. I'm Indiana Jim to you. My name is James C. Jones, but Indiana Jones was taken. But I do live in Indiana. At any rate, we're going to talk about survival stuff today in actually the literal sense of stuff. We're also sometimes in these episodes going to talk about stuff that goes on in your heads and how you react to stress and hazards and preparedness situations. But today we're going to talk about actual stuff. Actually, this whole series is going to be best-in-class survival stuff. And we'll talk about that in a minute. I am the founder of Live Free USA. Our website is at americansurvivor.org. I am also the author of 4 books, soon to be 5 books, from Skyhorse Publishing in New York. I'm the author of Advanced Survival, Total Survival, 150 Survival Secrets, and the Ultimate Book of Survival and the Ultimate Book of Survival Gear. Also, now in the process of creating the Prepper's First Aid Handbook, which is going to be a great, I like to think it's probably the best first aid book for non-professionals that's ever been written. I've combined a lot of things, so I'm pretty proud of it. It'll be out in 2022. Live Free is a not-for-profit, tax-deductible corporation. It was founded in 1968 by me and 4 of my friends who like to go camping. Our mission is to advance and educate for individual and family preparedness and emergency survival. Our motto is preparedness, self-reliance, and responsibility. And again, if you go to americansurvivor.org, which is our website, you can join for $20 a year or $50, not $5, $50 for 3 years. If you'd like to be a life member, it's $200. And you'll get the newsletter every 2 months, and you can download all the back issues. There's 70 of them out there, and you can download them off the website as they come out, and also download all the back issues. Or we'll actually snail mail you this newsletter every 2 months. And we also have all kinds of other activities and things coming up. So, at any rate, best-in-class survival gear. As I was researching my book, which is my latest book, not the one that hasn't come out yet, but the one that is out right now. Boy, you can see the ring light on there. It's kind of cool. Yes. At any rate, the Ultimate Survival Ultimate Book of Survival Gear it covers 32 classifications of survival equipment. Everything from food to water purifiers to guns to knives, everything you'd want to think about. While I was creating this book, I did a lot of research, needless to say. I started to do the book, by the way, I realized that I had 15 different kinds of stoves. I had 20 different kinds of water purifiers. So I said, I've got a lot of stuff. So I think I'm going to write a book. In fact, the book's original title was supposed to be Survival Stuff, okay? But anyhow, point being, I also decided to write an article for our newsletter called Best in Class Survival Gear. And in that article, I covered respirators, water purifiers, knives, containers, clothing, shelters, weapons, stoves, fire starters, and medical equipment and first aid kits. So I covered all those under Best in Class because I felt that there were certain things in those classifications that were really, over my 50 plus years of doing this, that there were at least 50, there were at least those areas in my 50 years of experience, I'd found that certain things were just the best for a number of reasons. I chose them not by like some of you newer survivalists or prepper people because they get a little money on the side maybe, or this is the highest tech, fanciest name brand or whatever. I didn't choose that way at all. By the way, in the early days of survival, we didn't have any survival stuff to buy. You bought military surplus or you improvised. And some of that stuff I'm still using. But basically I'm looking at simplicity and reliability, Versatility, if you can use it for more than one thing, it's an all-purpose thing rather than specialized. Availability, in other words, you can get it on the surplus market or Google it and find plenty of sources at, in the camping stores and survival suppliers. And durability, does it last? Now I want to know if something lasted because I've been around, I've lasted a long time, and so has my equipment. So I can look at this stuff and say, yeah, this is a good piece of equipment. So among all those subjects today, we're going to talk about knives, okay? And I could not start talking about knives without, and I just talked about durability, right? Without talking about my original Boy Scout knife from the 1950s. Now, I can tell you that I've been through a very tough life in my early days. I didn't have anything from my childhood left. After about 14, very few things survived. I still have my original Army surplus blanket, all cut little holes in it and everything, but I still got it. I have one little pack that I had back then. One of my cousins was in World War II that gave it to me when I was a kid. And I have my Boy Scout knife that I've had for all those years. I don't use it a lot anymore. It's just takes a nice place on my shelf. But this is my original Boy Scout knife. Still holds a pretty good blade. The original sheath was in pretty good shape. I took good care of it. It originally had a small knife here, multi-bladed scout knife here too, which was carried. So I was in the Boy Scouts for a few years, and this was my Boy Scout knife. So I couldn't talk about knives without talking about how I take care of my equipment and how important it is that for my whole life I've hung on to my Boy Scout knife when I've had very little else from my childhood left at all, but there it is. Okay, so best in class. What is the best in class, in my view, for knives? Okay, for survival purposes, and without a doubt, for my personal purposes, is the Marine K-Bar knife. Okay, there's actually a brand out there called K-Bar, which you can get, and these are K-Bar clones. They cost about $19 or $20, and they're pretty good. They look a lot like this. This is an original military surplus K-Bar from World War II. It's much better built than probably the new clones that are out there. And I've seen some of these originals on sale for $100 or more just because they're the real deal. But this is military specifications, so it's a really good knife. I took the liberty of dyeing the handle. This was originally just leather colored. I dyed it and polished it a little bit to make it look nice. But I've been carrying this for a long time. Comes in a really sturdy sheath with a tie. By the way, you should always try to get a knife with a good sheath. Check the sheath out for quality, and it should be riveted. It should be, especially up here, this is one piece of leather all the way around. This is not going to come off. And then this ties to your leg so you can pull the knife out without having the whole thing come up with you. You've got to, when you need it in a hurry. K-Bar, very versatile, very heavy duty, highly recommend it. My next knife that I really recommend, I carried for a long time. In fact, you'll recognize I have it here on a World War II. Most of this is World War II and Korean surplus. I carried this for a long time in the field doing survival classes and that. Now it sort of hangs on the wall. But this is the Air Force survival knife, and it's a really nice knife. It's only a 5-inch blade, whereas the K-Bar is a 7-inch blade. But actually, this is as much blade as you need. This is fine. It's really well built. Same thing with the handle. I dyed it black. I like the black better than that. Comes in a really good, well-built sheath. Got the same ties, so you can tie it to your leg. It also comes with something very important. It has a sharpening stone. Now, during the Cold War, the early days of the Cold War, which most of you don't remember, but I do, there weren't any missiles. So how are you going to deliver nuclear weapons to Russia? And the way that was going to be done was with big old bombers, and you would fly over Russia, drop a nuclear bomb, and then if your plane went down, you weren't going to be the most popular guy in the territory. So the Air Force developed some of the best survival gear, including that knife, including several different kinds of survival rifles, survival kits, survival training. The Air Force did an excellent job, and some of the stuff that came out of that was some of the earliest and best survival gear, because it was designed for pilots who were going to have to try to get themselves out of Russia under the most hostile conditions. There weren't any helicopters either at that time that could fly in, napa the earth, and get them out of there. So the survival training back in Cold War for Air Force pilots was excellent. But that would be as far as I went with my article. But we're going to go a little further into knives because they are an important subject. I'll just show you this one for a minute, just to let you know. This is a Fairbairn Sykes style combat knife like the British used during World War II. It's a fighting knife, but it's not a survival knife. So, you know, you want to get one of these and have it hanging on your wall or show it or whatever. If you're a knife nut, which I am not, I'm not a knife collector. This is called a Big Smoky toothpick. It's nice for show. It's nice if you're in knife fights, which I don't recommend. But no, it's not a survival knife by any means. So we'll put that one to the side. Now, there are a number of what I would say K-bar-like knives that you might want to consider. And, you know, the basic design is the same. This one here is a Smith & Wesson Search and Rescue. Again, costs about $25, $30. It's a little shorter blade, has some blood grooves in it, black coated blade, rubber handle, good grip, well made. Hate to say it's probably made in China, but it's a good knife. It's a lot similar, it's somewhat similar in design to the K-bar. It also comes with a very good, high quality nylon, heavy duty, I guess probably ballistic nylon I might call it, nylon sheath. It's actually metal reinforced at several points. It's all the interior part of it's metal, has a really good sheath as far as the way it holds on to your belt. It's got a Velcro strap for quick use to release it, and it has a diamond encrusted sharpening stone here to sharpen it with right there, so you can keep your knife sharp. Has a ring here and some rings here, so you can strap this to your thigh, so it doesn't again make it difficult to pull the knife out of the sheath when you need it. Okay, so those are the main big knives. You want either a K-bar style or a K-bar clone or K-bar itself, or this really nice Smith & Wesson search and rescue knife is very good. What if you want the ultimate survival knife? You hear a lot about this. Remember Rambo running out of the police station? He grabs that big old knife and he runs out, and then he's got all kinds of stuff in the handle. And this is what we think of as a survival knife. And this is a survival knife I found on the internet when I started searching, because when I was doing my book, I said, yeah, I'm going to have to show a knife with stuff in the handle, you know, some kind of a survival knife, okay? And this is the Jungle King, it's called, Jungle King survival knife. It's got a nice blade on it. It's made out of high quality steel, got a real saw blade. I mean, you can really saw wood with this saw blade in the back, which is really well designed. All of these knives, when they have a handle full of goodies, they tend to be weak at this point here. This one is riveted and it's got reinforcements here, so it's not too bad. Unless you're going to use your knife for a crowbar, this is probably okay. There's a lot of stuff in the handle, including a compass. Let's see, I had a whole bunch of different things here that it actually has in it. But it has a compass in there. It has all kinds of, has a fishing kit, suturing kit, Band-Aids, a little container for matches, and all kinds of other good things in the handle. And there's a compass in the grip here. I'm not going to disassemble all of this because it's fun to try to get it back in there, but it's a really serious survival knife. The sheath, again, part of the secret of a good knife is also the sheath has all this cordage wrapped around here. It actually has, believe it or not, a slingshot built into it. The rubber bands for the slingshot are in here. You can take them out, put them on these prongs, and you've got a slingshot. There's also, in the stock here, there's ammunition. In the grip here, there's ammunition, steel balls for your slingshot, and you've got the bands there. There's also there's a mirror in here that you can deploy, and also it's another small knife for skinning and that kind of thing. It's also built into the handle here. And let's see if I can pull that out. Yeah, as you can see, here's another small knife built into the handle. It's also got a bottle opener and a couple of other tools built into it. This is a pretty nice survival knife. I kind of like it, but I also don't like the idea that it's going to be a little weaker here. Now, you can get some expensive knives that both have something in the handle and are stronger. They're maybe a few $100, but this is a pretty good knife. By the way, just to show you what's going on out there in the market, I saw this on Walmart on the internet. Walmart was $30. I also saw it from somewhere from Ator Knives, 16015 Jungle King knife. It looked just like this. I don't know what it was. I'm not paying $298 for a knife, okay? In all cases, with you're buying stuff, go for the middle range. Don't pay for a brand name. Try to get military spec whenever you can get military stuff. That's great because it's always good. But anyhow, don't get carried away with brand names when you can get good quality without paying an overly high price. Now, as I said with my Boy Scout thing, they had a little knife there because you always have to have two knives if you're in survival or in your survival kit. You also have to have smaller knives when you're just carrying them in your pocket on everyday, what we call everyday carry. And we'll talk about everyday carry. I did another program about everyday carry. We used to call it coat pocket survival. Anyhow, one of the things, obviously, you can carry the ever-present Swiss Army knife. I've had this one for 40, 50 years, and I used to carry this one on my belt. Nice little Swiss Army knife. This is your backup knife. You can't do everything with those big knives, so you got to have a small one also. So Swiss Army knife is one option. I quite often, in fact, this is my usual everyday carry knife. Okay, this is special ops gear. Nice blade. Got also a little bit of a saw blade here. It's got a seat belt or cordage cutter built into it. It's got a safety so you can lock it so it won't open accidentally. And I like it a lot. It costs about $80. My wife bought it for me. And then here's one from Stealth Angel. By the way, I would recommend check out Stealth Angel's website. They've got some great and somewhat unique survival items and high quality at pretty reasonable prices. This one's got a blade very similar to the blade in this knife. Bottle opener on the back though. Glass breaker, to break glass on a car or, to get into a car or get out of a car. Cordage cutter here. But this one also has a little flashlight right there. You pull that out. It's got small batteries in it. It's got a one bulb flashlight, and on this end, this is a fire starter, magnesium rod fire starter built into the knife. So you got a bunch of extra survival stuff in your pocket knife right here. Never can have too many of those fire starters, lights, those kind of things. You want to have redundancy. Or you may decide to carry, in addition to a big knife, a multi-tool, okay? And this is the Wave, Leatherman Wave. Leatherman's one of the main brands of these. Leatherman Wave, I highly recommend it. Again, about 80 bucks, 85 bucks. You got 25 different functions. The main thing is when you buy a multi-tool, be sure that the blade deploys while the knife is closed. Okay, some of them have all the blades on the inside. So then you have to open it up and deploy the pliers, which you seldom use, but they're handy, before you can get the blades out of it. So you don't want one of those. You want one like this, and the Leatherman Wave is, I highly recommend. It's really nice. Here's a saw blade on the other side. It's got, like I say, 25 functions. So I would carry, that, and then my, the Leatherman Wave, which I carry a lot anyhow. Even when I'm on the street, I have this belt pouch, and this is what I carry now instead of the Swiss Army knife. But anyhow, this is my big knife. This is my multi-tool. That's usually what I recommend. Now, last ditch, last resort, neck knives. Okay, you lost your knife, your equipment all was lost. Maybe you got searched, somebody stole something, I don't know what happened to you, but you got another ace in the hole. You got a knife that's pretty much invisible and also impossible to lose, and they're called the neck knife. And these cost about 15, 20 bucks. This one is fairly small. Let you take a good look at that. Nice little, but it's a nice little, it's going to do the job for a lot of things that you need to do. You can get them a little bigger. This one's a little clunky. I think it's a little large, but it's definitely more knife. Got a good grip. So neck knives. I get these at gun shows. I'm sure you can Google this and then you'll see them, online, and you can buy them. So now what have I got? I've got my knife system. Of course, if I'm not walking down the street, I'm not going to be walking down the street with this. Okay. Even in Indiana, they're going to question that. But they let me get away with this pretty well. I can even have this clipped on my belt, and I've never had any problems. Or this, I can have this in my little pouch on my belt, and again, I don't have any problem with that. Or I can carry this all the time. So my knife system is one big one multi-tool, or sometimes I carry both the and or good pocket knife, and then maybe under certain circumstances a neck knife. So that pretty well covers knives. We're going to talk about containers, and we're going to talk about medical supplies and clothing, and shelters, and all kinds of other things in other episodes. Again, AmericanSurvivor.org, our newsletter, join Live for USA, become a member. We're actually looking to form chapters. We have some chapters formed already. But until next time, this is Indiana Jim for Life and Freedom signing off.